Welcome into Celtics Late Night. My name is Ben Vallis. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Keep that chin up, Celtics fans. Obviously, a brutal evening, a brutal afternoon for folks on this side of the planet here in Australia. Alongside me, fellow disappointed Celtics fan, Jake Eisenberg. Jake, how's it going?
This glass was a lot more full about an hour ago.
Cheers.
And the fellas at the Garden Report went long as I honestly expected them to, but this is the end of the whiskey bottle.
That's good. That's kind of how it is. Staring at the bottom of an empty bottle. A lot of Celtics fans out there. Man.
I didn't expect it to go like that, Ben. If you watched our show on our First to the Floor YouTube show yesterday, I was like, there's 2 or 3 scenarios. Celtics win a blowout. Celtics win a close one. Heat win a close one. Did not have Celtics get blown out on the bingo card. I mean, like, I don't even know where you want to start, but like, I pretty firmly believe that the Tatum injury completely changes the game. Like,
yeah,
he is everything for this team. Like, cannot be overstated.
Yeah, just quickly, a quick introduction, given this is only our 7th installment of the Celtics Late Night Show. We are from the First to the Floor Celtics podcast, which is part of the CLNS network. We've been doing the pod for about 5 years. You can find the podcast on all podcast platforms and on our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this show and you want more similar content, find us over there at First to the Floor and subscribe. The Tatum injury, first possession, like first 30 seconds of the game, Joe Mazzulla had a post-game comment afterwards when asked, like, well, how did you adjust the game plan? Like, what were your thoughts going into adjusting the game plan after the clear Tatum injury where he was clearly hobbled, running up and down the court all game? Like, it clearly affected him. And Mazzulla was like, no game plan change. Just like, keep it rolling, try and win the game. Might have needed a change to the game plan there, Joe. I don't want to go like straight down the rabbit hole of blaming Joe Mazzulla.
Oh, wow. I didn't know this is where you were because we haven't really talked about it in the aftermath. We've just kind of been messaging sadness and misery on the side here.
Well, sadness and misery are like all of the undertones of what has just happened and what we will be feeling for the next, like, I want to say a few days, but like potentially a few months, like at least until Summer League and until we get to see Johan Begaron, like,
Johan Begaron.
There we go.
35th pick overall. Who knows who that could be?
First minute of the game, Tatum
first play of the game.
Yeah. Going for an offensive rebound, not rewarded for his hustle in this particular case.
Well, he got fouled and went to the line, right? It was like it's all a blur. But he goes up, he gets fouled, goes to the line, and I'm like, this is the one guy, like, there is no alternate game plan. He has never been injured before. Like,
you got to have it up your sleeve, though, right?
I don't know.
And like, clearly it was just like play through Jaylen Brown, which like on paper, in theory, right? All NBA second team, multi-time All-Star, right? This is the beginnings of a good resume of a guy that you might want to give the ball to in an important game. 8 turnovers, Jake. 8 turnovers.
Man.
And that's only like the initial first dribblings of what was an overall like large scale bed shitting. That's not even the full story. That's just the cover. What can you even say? It was a disaster for Jaylen Brown.
It was a complete disaster. Like, this is your chance. You want to be a number one? You want to show the world you deserve the Supermax? Go out and do it. Your number one guy who is literally there every night. Every night. The long COVID, plays through it, sacrificing his splits, drags the team to the playoffs. Literally, he's He's never been hurt, right? Like,
only in FIBA, where he also rolled his
yes,
ankle,
FIBA.
and
Yeah,
they lost that game as well, I believe.
correct. Yeah, because he's the best, and everybody wins when he's on your team. He does everything. He does everything for this team. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I don't know if we can be copyrighted if I'm the one singing.
No, unless you're pitch perfect.
Which
Which
I have a few skills, not a lot, and one of them is not singing. So we have no issues with being pitch perfect. That's for sure.
Jaylen Brown. I mean, yeah.
He does everything. He does everything. Brett Usher, great Twitter follow. He tweeted something about like LeBron being one of the only players to have been listed at every position at some point on Basketball Reference: point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. Tatum literally plays every position for the Celtics. And you lose him, like he has been the engine, and not just the engine for the whole game, but especially in the first halves of all of these wins, especially in game 6. And if he's not there to set the tone on both ends, he's your best defender. He's been your best defender on ball, rim protection, help at the nail. He is your best everything. And he's always going to be underrated, it feels like, because he doesn't pop in like this like flashy way. But when he goes down and he's getting dusted by people off the dribble in like really important closeout games, it's an anomaly. It does not happen. He was like fighting through it early, getting on the boards, but like he was a decoy.
And they were going at him. They were going at him, especially once they realized how injured he was. Like they were going at him offensively from the Heat perspective. And it was really tough to see. Like it was so tough to go out that way already. And to see like our beloved Tatum, like a wounded deer in the forest. Like that's what it was like. Like they were just going at him, and like it's just like not like this. Like whatever that Matrix meme is, not like this. so rough to see like our guy be gone at like that, and then for Jaylen Brown not to show up in his stead. So rough. I have no words. This did not go according to expectations, Jake.
It was so exciting. So exciting to be back. I've never felt the way I felt over the past 2 days and leading into this game. Not game 7 before Milwaukee, not game 7 before Philly, not game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 against Golden State. We grieved. All of you in the chat here, we grieved. Down 0-3. The team was dead. The team was dead.
You might say pre-grieved.
Well, that's the thing. We kind of pre-grieved the game 3. Personally, I was like, this doesn't feel like we got it. And so like there was a pre-grieving, and then we pre-grieved again. And then the Celtics did their lifeguarding course, learned how to give CPR between games 3 and 4, played some top golf, and they got us back. We got a loved one back for a few moments.
Derek White? We had Derek White in the third quarter as well.
I was saying we had Derek White for the whole game. Like if there's one bright spot, that's what it is. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Go on.
I want to take a moment just to shout out all the Heat fans in the chat and thank you for the engagement. I know you think that you're like can
you please like this
up us? Yeah, please, while you're here, like give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the show. But like every bit of engagement that you do, whether you're a Heat fan or a Celtics fan, is obviously helpful for us in the algorithm and promoting our stream. So Heat fans, Celtics fans, neutrals, you're all welcome. Please comment as much and as often as you like. It's honestly welcome. Derek White in the third quarter gave me hope. I talked about on our last podcast, Jake, on our last podcast over at First to the Floor. It was not a late night show, that this game had the potential to encapsulate many Celtics games that we've seen throughout the regular season, really in the Jays era, which is like they go down early, they come back, they take the lead or they get close to the lead, they give you some hope only to like shit it away at the end and just like completely crush your soul, which is this entire series in a nutshell. It was brutal. We also talked about on the pod that like obviously being swept by the Heat would have been worse for the team, but potentially better for us as fans, because losing 4 games in a row, you can there's this cascading grief that you can kind of come to grips with game to game. But to lose in 7 after coming back from a 3-0 deficit, better for the team because they regain some sense of pride and dignity. Worse for fans in terms of the emotional roller coaster that was sort of taken on a ride with. Now that that's happened, does it feel that way to you?
Yeah, so I think this comment almost kind of encapsulates it, right? So I literally just said it. It was of all the scenarios of how Game 7 goes, the Miami Heat blowing out the Celtics was not one that I really saw coming. And there's been people in the chat being like, "Oh, excuses, Tatum injury, whatever." But like, if you're a real Celtics fan, like you have to understand how much Tatum does for this team. Like, he does way more than Jimmy Butler because he doesn't have Caleb Martin shooting 60, 59, 90
oh my God.
from the
snubbed
field
as well. Caleb Martin
I cannot
snubbed.
believe Caleb Martin got snubbed for the Eastern Conference MVP. And so when you're thinking about multiple past future games, it's weird, right? Like when I spoke about that, how making the comeback, getting to Game 7 kind of helps you answer some of the offseason questions. But, when I'm doing my Doctor Strange scenarios, I didn't take into account that Tatum gets hurt on the first play and Jaylen Brown, second team All-NBA, we need you to step up and save the day. We didn't need like the best game from Jaylen. It was a 7-point game in the third quarter, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't even, he was playing awful. We just needed like a solid game. Like a good game. Not even like a historical, this goes down for the history books game. And it would have been like a tie or up 5. Instead, he has 8 turnovers, cannot make a shot. I don't even know what he ended up from the 8 for 23.
Yeah.
8 for 23. After going 7 for 22 in game 2, where Jason Tatum was still taking all of that attention away. Like, that's when the questions come back. Like, the questions go away. And people would be like, you can be like, you don't want to play the results. You want to do process over results. The reality is we work in a sports world. We're living in a sports world where literally like the results matter. And we're going to get into all the Jaylen Brown scenarios. I've done a bunch of looking at different examples.
I'm going to get right into it.
But yeah, like for this specific game, like he just needed to be good. He just needed to be good. Like second team All-NBA. Even if you don't believe he's like a top 10, top 15, top 20, top 25, top 30 player, he was a disaster today.
Just be the second best player on the team. Don't leave it up to Derek White, who was awesome.
Who tried, man.
He's like, his stats don't like 5 to 12 from the floor,
crazy,
but like he sort of was forcing it, which is when we really knew it was over, because like Derek White does not force it, but he had to force it because he could see Tatum didn't have it. Jaylen clearly didn't have it. Derek White, like I guess I'm just like hanging on to that. Like as I like drift out into the ocean of like Celtics fandom despair, I'm clinging on to a bit of driftwood in the shape of Derek White, because it's kind of like, that's just a little glimmer of hope with everything we've seen in this last game.
No, Derek White, I think if you want to reflect on the whole season, like maybe the glimmer of hope, the shining light from beginning to end. He saved we should have lost game 6 we should have. And maybe that would have been better. Like if you lose on the buzzer beater, maybe it's crazy how these things swing. Sign Paul Reed. Time Lord is cooked.
Yeah, the chat is on fire. I welcome it. And it's it's symbolic of what's like, I'm sure, Jake, just like happening in your mind right now, which is just like the ping-ponging, the duality of a Celtics fan of like, trade Jaylen, keep Jaylen, the new CBA is coming up, like what's going on? We just lost the 8th seed before we could get to the finals. Like there's just so much going on in one's mind right now, and the chat is indicative of that.
Hawking in the chat, we need to be careful of an overreaction. Yes. Correct. We're literally game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That's a really good place to be.
against the 8 seed.
Anything is possible except the Heat beating the Nuggets. Couldn't agree more. Hope you all listen to my recommendation to bet on the Nuggets to win the title before Game 7 because there's a 0% chance they beat the Miami Heat.
So speaking of other 0% chances, as I try and segue back to my little run sheet here, the Celtics led by 3 when Malcolm Brogdon checked in midway through the first quarter. This is from Adam Himmelsbach of the Globe. They were outscored by 15 points over his rough 6-minute stint after a rough series, and were never the same afterwards. So there was some sense of being in control of the game despite Tatum's injuries. Like, there was good early energy, good ball movement, great defense to begin with. Like, the Heat really struggled to score early on. And which is why I think like that 103, like, you know, objectively in the NBA, holding a modern NBA team to 103 points or whatever they scored is good. But like, they just struggled to score early and then had like seemingly no trouble scoring later in the game. So the 103 total score for the Heat doesn't tell the whole story. But yeah, basically Brogdon checks in, they're outscored by 15, and then we could just never get it back, somewhat because we didn't have our best player who was hampered by an ankle injury. Brogdon came in and just like, he was the like collective asshole that shat the bed for the Celtics in this game, I felt.
Man, Bobby Manning, Garden Report, releases the video about 5 hours, 6 hours before the game. Malcolm Brogdon just draining threes, top of the key, draining him. And I'm like, if we get a 6 Man of the Year performance, we could be on here. You should go play for the Shanghai Sharks performance. Like, it's the both ends. He's been a disappointing defender all year long, and a bunch of the guys on the roster have been disappointing defenders. Jaylen Brown, top of the list. I don't even know if it's disappointing for Jaylen, just because I think you always want a little bit more from him on the defensive end, and he just doesn't quite have the mental aptitude to hang in there. Here we go. You got it. Oh,
you got it.
Oh. When do we finally realize we need to stop letting teams celebrate on our home court? Hopefully this is the time. To be fair, we celebrated on the Heat's home court last year. So of the 3 celebrations that have happened, we're only
1 and 2. We're 1 and 2, right? Yeah, it's not great.
I did see someone today like tweet about, anytime we bring the legends out, it seems to go badly. Like KG retirement night, we have that Luka Doncic game winner, in our face. Like it doesn't seem to go super well whenever we like add this extra pressure. It's probably just a coincidence. But
Jason Terry was in the house. Celtics great.
JT,
and,
Isaiah Thomas.
Tough. Jason Terry was there. Yeah, Isaiah Thomas, Paul Pierce, and Rajon Rondo was sitting there with Tito Horford.
This is a great comment.
Bill Simmons was in the crowd. The legends were out there.
This is the problem. I think that everybody was in. Everybody was in. 04 Red Sox comparisons, full swing. And the hype video before the game started is, the montage, 04 Red Sox, Celtics Jared White game winner. And the first play of the game, Tatum does his ankle. Randy Watson, though, in the chat. JB is like a drawer you can't open, no handles. It's too good. You gotta laugh, otherwise you're gonna cry.
Well, I was gonna say, when I can feel joy again, I will come back and watch this on the First of the Floor YouTube channel and laugh at it. Right now, I've got nothing inside of me, Jake, other than pain and despair. No 3-pointers. Yeah, we couldn't hit any threes. The Heat D was really good, and the Celtics were back to sucking against the zone. Where, like, I suppose again, it all comes back to the Tatum injury, but like, no one could initiate the offense. Suddenly, without Tatum, we can't attack the zone. Horford, Smart, all with multiple opportunities. Tatum as well, but he was injured, of catching the ball at the nail inside the zone, like classic 2-3 zone attack, and we just couldn't convert. And it seemed like we were back to being, and we've been praising the Celtics all series of like finally figuring out this Heat zone, particularly in the last 3 games, after being historically ruined by it in this sort of more recent rivalry. We get good catches in the middle of the zone, and we can't convert. Straight back to, what has been ailing us against these Heat since we've known them in this like post LeBron Spoelstra era. And it just sucks because we were there. We had them.
We solved it. We solved it in game 5. We destroyed it in game 5. They brought it back at the end of game 6, and it wasn't nearly as bad as it felt. Like, you go back and watch the fourth quarter, your Celtics actually got a few good looks, bunch of good looks, just missed a bunch. And Tatum is the guy that solves all of your problems when it comes to the zone, when it comes to getting to the rim, when it comes to creating good looks. When I think if we were to go back and watch all of the 3-point attempts from game 6 and all of the 3-point attempts from tonight, the looks that we got in game 6 were much better. But like tonight, we couldn't get a single clean look. Nothing. Mm-hmm. We worked tonight. We were 9 for 42. Crazy, man. Crazy.
Brutal.
Even now, it's just like Jalen 1 for 9.
And like, to be fair, to win game 6 was like a legitimate miracle as well. So like that's a continuation of just like shitty shooting and like generally shot generation. The difference in the last game, Tatum was incredible in the first 2 quarters, and I suppose early in the second half. We had a good, relatively high scoring Jaylen Brown game, 26 points in game 6 as well. Like the little things you need from your superstars to keep you alive in a gritty late playoff series, where, the shots aren't falling. The teams know each other so well that like they're not getting to what they do best. You just need your superstars to go and do what they do. Like, the reason Derek White was in a position to pull off a miracle at the end of game 6 was because the Jays did what they do in that game. And like, we were just never going to be in a winning position without the Jays performing at any sort of high level in this one. So unfortunately, like, we can break down the game, but the game was over after 30 seconds after Tatum got injured. And as time went on and we realized the extent of the injury, and like when Derek White was coming back, I was like, Tatum's like still going to be injured for game 1 of the finals. Derek White's going to win this. And like, we're in trouble in game 1 of the finals. Like, that's where my head was at. But it didn't matter because he was just so injured. We just never stood a chance.
That's the thing, though. It's like it was there. Like, it was there. You said like we held the Heat to 104 points. Like, the defense wasn't amazing, but it was good enough where this game was there. You're down 7 in the third quarter. Imagine being a Celtics fan up 7 in the third quarter. You feel like that's safe? No, it's a 3-possession game with how much time to go. It was there for the taking. You have to point the finger for tonight at Jaylen Brown. Like, you have to. There's like Marcus Smart, not perfect. Sure. But like, he's a role player. I love Marcus, and he's been a catalyst for so many big playoff wins for the Celtics over the past 5+ years. But you cannot count on him every single night to like be the guy that drags you over the line. It had to be Jalen.
I was disappointed with Smart, actually, because he's the one guy who who's proven to be able to initiate the offense with Tatum out, and he just didn't seem to be on ball enough, aggressive enough.
Remember he had that. He tried to throw Jalen the backdoor cut, like I don't even know if it was in the third quarter, but like there was a run happen, like a run percolating. There was a run percolating. And they'd gotten a stop. They go down the other end, and Jalen forgot that Caleb Martin is not James Harden. And he's forgotten that like a bunch of times this series, honestly. And he tries to throw the backdoor cut, and Caleb Martin just is like, I see this coming, dude. Goes down the other end, scores. 4-point swing.
Caleb Martin, like, despite how good he's been all series, still hit some, like, even now with all of that context, still hit some bullshit in this game.
Dude.
Credit to the Heat. Credit to the Heat. Like, they
not credit to
incredible.
The Heat.
They were great in this game. They were really good.
No, but like, it's bullshit. Caleb Martin scores 19 points per game on 60, 49, 88.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That is craziness. Like, we literally win the series in 5 if he just like shoots his averages. Like, it's insanity what this guy did. Credit to culture. Credit to culture. Heat culture. Hope you enjoy that 4-0 sweep in the finals. Really, really, really happy for you guys. Pizza
God.
Lover Duh. Terrible name.
Get
It's
out of
like,
here.
it's a terrible, terrible, terrible name. Like, it's not how you, it's just K Martin. It's actually a C Martin. It's Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
So you've even spelled your own player's name wrong. Very embarrassing.
Get out of here. Isn't there a Heat stream that you can jump into?
No,
and
this is the
celebrate?
thing. There's no Heat stream because there's no Heat fans. There's like 9 of you. There was
Right.
it was barely a sellout in game 3 of the conference finals. It's embarrassing. You've literally ruined the NBA finals.
Uh-oh. Here we
Caleb
go.
Martin's ruined the NBA finals because no one's going to watch it, and it's going to crater the ratings. The advertising spend's going to drop, leading to just a cataclysmic impact, and it's just going to lead to the NBA going a downturn, and everybody that enjoys the NBA is going to be affected. And it's Caleb Martin's fault, and it's Pat Riley's fault for doing this deal with the devil.
I just want to say that if you're a Heat fan, if you're a Celtics fan, if you're a neutral, if you're someone who just likes watching a couple of blokes in pain, we love all of you. We appreciate the engagement. It's a lot of fun. It's sports fandom.
Yeah. I'm joking. This is for fun.
Yeah.
This is fun. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, I know, right? There's no pain. This hasn't completely ruined my year. I'll be fine. What else we got in this game? Sam Hauser checks in with 8 minutes to go. It wasn't enough. The Horford drop-off. We should talk about the Horford drop-off because that was like clear all postseason. Like maybe beyond the Hawks series, we just didn't get the owl that has like kind of made us as good as we have known ourselves to be. Obviously, the Jays, one Jay in particular was not particularly good in this game, but the Jays have been consistent the last couple of years. I think we're starting to see the decline, right? Like he's not, obviously had that block on Bam in the last game, which was like a signature career moment for Al Horford, which will unfortunately get swept under the rug along with the Derek White game winner now that we haven't won the series. But Al offensively, just like seemingly not an option for us. And he's been a required option in this era, like someone for us to go to sometimes in like a break glass in case of emergency. Think about, this is going back a bit, that the last possession of game 3 against the Sixers in 2018, Jesus, I mean, it's like 5 years ago now, but like we just throw it to Al and he just like goes to work in the post. Like we don't really have that, and he's not hitting his 3 anymore. So like, what is he to us?
I mean, yeah, like he's definitely declined since he left Boston. But at the same time, like he had his best shooting year of his career, and he shot 29% from 3 in the playoffs on 5.2 attempts. Oh, actually, no, that was regular season. 5.2 attempts, 44.6%. 45% from 3, dude. Like, and then he comes in and he shoots 29% in the playoffs, and like that is maybe the biggest fundamental difference between the regular season and the playoffs was because I think everybody else on the roster was, he like at least had relative consistency relative to the regular season. But Al Horford, he played incredible defense on Joel Embiid. He played incredible defense on Bam Adebayo. And he was not a perfect defender in this series. If Rob Williams had the capability to play 30 minutes a night, this was the series for Rob. If Al's going to be missing shots, Rob's defense was fantastic. The problem is, I think he got hurt in this game. Not even know, like, right? There was like that tweet from Jay King. He was like almost in the locker room, but not quite. He didn't look right to me. There was like something happened. He was not limping, but he looked off, running up and down the court, like putting his head down, like he was thinking about some kind of injury. He was still fantastic, I thought, but he can't give you what he played tonight. 14 minutes? So yeah, because he must have been injured.
Mm-hmm.
He must have.
And he was great in his minutes, and I think objectively great all series in terms of this matchup. And we saw Zeller, the Heat's backup center, played off the court quite early, relatively speaking, in the series, and Rob, like, in theory, quite the opposite. Like, if anything, I mean, certainly we should have been giving him more and more minutes. And the fact that we could switch using Rob Williams and not necessarily create a disadvantage for us defensively was really good. So to see him as little as we did tonight disappointing, but there was obviously some underlying issues there. I know he got hit in the face at one point, and that was a reason for him to go back of house. Apparently, there was some other injury that he had to go back and get treated for as well. But none worse, none more devastating than the Tatum injury, which is like, that's the story. Yes, more things happened in the game, but we didn't realize it necessarily at the time, but it was all over like 30 seconds in. And now the Celtics season is over as well. Jake, like, what are your, and I'm asking for a close personal friend, like, how do you start to deal with this? Like, what do you, after we wrap up here, like, how does the grieving process for you start? What are you going to do to like try and start to get over this? Because it is devastating.
It's a great question. And I saw you tweet earlier today, like, so what are your hobbies?
Yeah.
Anyone have any hobbies?
Yeah.
And
anyone in the chat, let us know, by the way, because we really have no idea.
Like, especially in the playoffs, so much of my time is taken up watching the NBA, doing this show, which I love, absolutely love. And even the ups and the downs, like, it's part of the experience. Absolutely love it. I don't know, I kind of get excited. I know both of us, we play a lot of pickup, we exercise. Like, literally, I might become the most in shape I've ever been thanks to this loss. I might be on the Celtics next season. That's how good of a shape I'm getting in. That's how many shots I'm going to get up. Just willing myself. If I want this team to win a title so bad that I am willing to put in so much work that 29-year-old with juvenile arthritis, might be on the team at training camp. I'm going to be the Noah Vonleh of next year's team, where I come in and I'm critical to the first 7 games of the season. That's what's happening. I'm going nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, it is like, go to the gym and like listen to fucking Slayer and like just pump iron is a huge, like, I'll probably do that tonight. I messaged my wife before we started here. I was like, we have a young daughter. She's 3. I was like, I think I'm going to need the night off. Like, I need to just go and like shoot hoops or go to the gym, please. And she understands. She's like, of course, like, go, take your time. That's to the level of which we grieve these losses. And yeah, just like getting out there, exercising, picking up heavy things repetitively. Like, it's a start. And then like listening to a podcast while you're doing it, that's about like a completely different topic, like Succession's season finale or something like that.
Cool. Podcasts become pretty tough to listen to all of a sudden, don't they?
Yeah, except for this one. Subscribe first to the floor. We're
This is only
here all off season with all of your grieving needs.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know if there's anything else we can really touch on from this game. I'm scrolling through my notes. Like, it all kind of transitions now to off-season talk. We talked about the catalyst being the Tatum injury, and yeah, we can break down how terrible the rest of the team was and the lack of game plan, given the Tatum injury scenario. But it's happened and it's over, and we should begin the process of moving on. Dan Greenberg tweeted after the game, 3 losses at home in a series is a first in the Tatum Brown era. Tonight was just the second time they've lost a series once they've reached 3 wins, which is absolutely disgusting. What should we do with Jaylen Brown? So the Jays are about to be eligible for contracts that would be 35% of our cap each. This year, their salaries were just under 50% of the cap combined. That's from Danger Cart, who has put up a great article already sort of explaining what the new CBA means for the Celtics on his Medium there. So go check out Danger Cart, Ryan Bernardoni on Twitter. Some post-game quotes. So Jaylen Brown, quote, "This is not the end. We've got a lot better to give, a lot better basketball to play." And then Jason Tatum on signing Jaylen Brown to an extension, quote, "It's extremely important. He's one of the best players in the league." So Tatum always kind of just saying what he should say, what he is expected to say. He's just like the consummate professional, and like he's the city as far as I'm concerned. He is Boston. And then Jaylen Brown, again, really just throwing out the typical post-game cliches. All of that said, Jake, like, the Celtics have a decision to make. They could consider Johan Begaron, thanks to the classic Manila style here in the chat. over JB.
I love it.
What sense do you have of how the Celtics will approach this JB situation, given like that him and Tatum could combine take up 70% of the salary cap for the Celtics? Is this a time where you look to maybe move him? And if so, like what could you hope to get in exchange for Jaylen Brown that would keep us as productive a team as we have been over the last few years?
Man, it's crazy how much the swings impact all of this. I actually feel really confident with Brad Stevens at the helm because I feel like he showed the ruthlessness to trade away someone like Kemba Walker, be aggressive with picks. It's going to be really interesting because this is the biggest decision the Celtics have made since trading KG and Pierce, maybe I don't
Trading
know.
IT.
Maybe, I mean, yeah, trading even that, like they said, like it wasn't that big of a, like it didn't turn out to be that big of a risk, right? Because you gave up IT, who's like injured and stuff, or I mean, it was trading down to get Tatum over Fultz, maybe. But like this is one of the biggest decisions. This is definitely Brad's biggest decision. But like over the past decade, these are like top tier decisions. So I feel really comfortable with Brad at the top, honestly. And I know the Garden Report touched on this. Everybody is saying you either have to offer the Supermax or you trade Jaylen. There's no in between. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that's how it works. So can you, like if you're Jaylen Brown, right? You have to show some self-awareness. Like, can you look yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, I'm a top 10 player. I know that if I'm a number one on a team, I can take my team to 5 out of 7 conference finals. I can be a guy that takes us to the finals. If the Celtics go to Jaylen and say, look, Jaylen, if you leave, you're not getting a Supermax anywhere anyway. If you want to go be a number one guy in Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, Portland, be our guest. But you were never sniffing the conference finals or finals as a number one guy. Like, can Jaylen have the self-awareness to do that? And then you're the Celtics. That's the thing. Can the Celtics offer him the normal max or below the super max and still keep him? Because the only precedent that there is for that is Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert signed for less than the Supermax with Utah. That's the only time, as far as I've been able to find so far, where a player has been eligible and the team has been able to retain that player without actually signing them to the Supermax. It was like slightly above the normal max.
And look what happened. He brought coronavirus single-handedly to America.
The bloody French. Can't trust him. Wembanyama's a bust, honestly. So I don't know. And I feel like Jaylen's always a hard guy to read. Like I know the Garden Report guys were saying like that big pause in the press conference, like that's a thing. Just answer a certain way. Jaylen just like thinks and does kind of what's on his mind at the time. And I think you have to really take into consideration how impactful losing that game was. Like a lot of Celtics fans thought they were going to win that game. Jaylen Brown definitely believed he was going to win that game. Jaylen Brown definitely believed that when Jason Tatum hurt his ankle, that he was going to step up and lead the Celtics to a win. So like process all of that and then also have like an answer that he's comfortable with giving to the media is just all so much to expect these guys, even on any night, to ask these guys to come out of like a really intense environment and to answer these questions thoughtfully that like we're going to twist and turn into different angles. I've always thought is like really hard. I have a scenario for you, Ben, that I don't think anyone's thought of. And it's like,
I need something. Just give me
I don't know if this is going to help. I don't know if this is going to help you at all. It's the Last Dance. The Last Dance scenario.
Which is?
It's just run it back. You don't sign him into an extension. He just comes back, we play, we try and win a title, and maybe he leaves, but maybe he signs the normal max. But you say to Jalen, like, we want you in Boston. But if we sign you to this super max, we're fucked.
I mean, he's still tradable if we do supermax him. Not initially, because there's after
He's
an extension.
tradable.
Yeah. I just
But for what?
Yeah. Also,
Not even.
if we do run it back without extending him, we still have the ability to. We've got leverage over other teams. If he has a great year, we can still supermax him above what other teams can offer him, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's a really good option, unless you get halfway through the year and you're like, it's not working. We need to trade this guy, and now he's like a mega expiring.
Who, well, that's the thing. The value you're getting back is going to be completely different at that point. But it's like you weigh all the options. So the value proposition of running it back last dance style and being like, if we have an amazing year, you make all NBA again, we win the title, we supermax you. Easy, done. No questions asked. And it's not even like, but then
if not, then what? He walks? Like, then
well, there's still sign and trade option.
Sure. Okay.
Because he's not getting the max. He's not getting the super max anywhere. Not every team that has cap space is going to be a place that he wants to go to. And I don't really see there being teams that are going to like finagle their cap to Jaylen Brown's potential free agency, right? So, and look, this is in the aftermath. I have no idea who may or may not have cap space next year, let alone this year, because no one knows. Because there's going to be so many moves that happen between now and the beginning of next season that's going to impact that.
Yeah.
So there's options. And if the worst option is we run it back one more time, and if they win 60 games next year, and he probably makes All NBA again. Like, honestly, he probably does. Like, he's LeBron. Like you look at all of the forwards that miss time for whatever, he probably makes All NBA again at forward. Like, more likely than not. So it's not crazy.
And I just struggle with like, what situation can you like work your way towards that's better than having the Jays? And I know there's more to it than that, in that like they could eventually end up taking, together 70% of the salary cap, and that leaves very little in terms of maneuverability once you hit that, what is effectively a hard cap with the new CBA. And we've got these other sizable contracts in Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart and the Time Lord. Like, there's a lot to consider there. But in terms of like how you can shop Jaylen around and pieces you can get back for him, like, I'm so glad that that's not my job. And if there's one person in the world that I trust to like be able to answer that question, like in multiple ways, like if you say to Chat GPT, like, give me 5 realistic scenarios for like what we can do with Jaylen Brown, like Brad Stevens will give you the 5 best. Maybe. I don't know. I think it only has access to the internet up to 2021. So it might not be able to give us a good answer. But second best option, Jake, while you're at your keyboard there, is just email Brad Stevens.
Yeah, mate.
Leveraging our awesome CLNS contacts here and see what we can come up with before the show ends. I'm sure he's waiting to answer your emails as they come in there. Yeah, I mean, it just, and, this is why we're going to keep potting our way, potentially like every third or fourth day throughout the off season, because there's so much to answer here. And this Jaylen Brown question is probably top of the list there. I love the Jays, man.
Just
on
Jays. That, and we'll get to it in a second, but make sure everyone in the chat, there's a bunch of you in here right now. If you like the show, like, subscribe to First to the Floor. Like, we've got the YouTube channel. You can follow us on Spotify to get the audio stuff, Apple Podcasts. We're doing shows all the time. Live. We went live yesterday. Like, if you enjoy it, we're going to be going live all the time. We don't have these late night shows anymore for now until potentially when, who knows? We don't really know. We're figuring it all out. But like,
Summer
if you
League.
like the Summer League,
Bang on.
We're going to be live for Summer League, in one way or another. So, don't harass your mistress. I don't even know where this has come from in the chat right now. I know you guys are all over the place in the chat right now, and I appreciate it. But don't harass your mistress. Ben, let me ask you this: who is not expendable? Who is not expendable?
So, like, I know that's kind of a leading question, right? Like Derek White, but
It's
like
obviously there's two guys.
a couple of weeks ago, when Derek White had not shown up really for the majority of the postseason, we were like, oh, maybe you've got to move Derek. Like Brogdon's been pretty good, like with his 3-point shooting. You can't really look to move him. Now, like everything has changed. Like Derek White, Mr. Consistent. Clearly, when he gets a sense of needing to take over a game, he's capable of doing that. He sticks with the play right up until the end of the buzzer. The guys clearly love him. He's on a pretty team-friendly contract as well. Like Derek White is probably the least expendable now, right? And it really comes back to like Malcolm Brogdon. We talked about on the podcast yesterday. Like he's out, and we're not really even talking about him. This game, he comes in, albeit injured, and really is like the catalyst for the Celtics bed shitting in this game. Like it was all over once Brogdon checked in, especially once he checked out. Like maybe given the new CBA, we need to have a little bit more flexibility with our roster and our salaries, and that's a big chunk of change. And I think he's roughly making 17 mil a year, possibly more. Like maybe that's a piece of salary that you need to look to move on from. But yeah, to answer your question, Derek White and Tatum, obviously the most or the least expendable.
Aussie feels on it. Trade Smart for Giddey. I wish. But
I don't know, man. I don't know. I love
Giddey's going to
Smart.
get the max. Giddey's going to get the max. And like this CBA stuff, dude, like it sounds like they've really screwed up the
it's bad. It's bad for us.
Players. No, I actually don't think it's that bad for us because it's bad for everyone. If that makes sense. Like it's bad because we're currently in a good spot. I don't think it's as bad as some people are saying because it's going to limit anyone from getting really good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, and something that I thought that I had earlier, like it's crazy that we're here now, and you go back to the bubble, and we lost in 6 games to the Heat, and it was like we're good. We got JT. This is actually really funny because I've seen, we got Celtics future looks bleak. We've got Pizza Lover Dough. Yeah, he wants more salt. And like, you're in the wrong place for salt, in my opinion. And the biggest reason is Jason
I'll give
Tatum.
You some salt.
I'll go on. Yeah, you can go after this if you want. But
okay,
Jason Tatum. It's Jokic, Steph Curry, and Giannis. After that, as far as overall impact goes, guys in their prime, Tatum still being 25 years old, I'm sorry, he's right there. KD, gone. That's it. Prime, done. Toast. He's already the number 2 on his own team. Tatum already outplayed him in a series. Kawhi, done. Toast. Embiid, cooked him already. Best player in the series, Jason Tatum. He's literally a top 5 player in the NBA at 25 years old. Luka Doncic, cool. You ran up the stairs once in the offseason and it became a viral video because you're working on your fitness, apparently.
I mean, I agree with you. And yet, yeah, he sprains his ankle and that's it for the series. That's it for the game. And what makes that all the more frustrating is that Jimmy Butler also completely wrecked his ankle in the Knicks series, I believe. And the Heat found a way out of it. So I don't know if you attribute that to Heat culture. Is it not Heat culture?
You know how crazy it is that the freaking Heat won that series? The Heat almost won game 2 or was it game 2? Game 2 without Jimmy.
I know.
Because of Caleb Martin again. Like the Heat shot the Heat shot 30% from 3 in the Knicks series. And I watched every game in that series and the defense was at worst as good as the Celtics. At worst. They missed everything. Everything. It makes no sense whatsoever. I actually, speaking of salt, if you want to do salt, game 1, Celtics up 71-61, 10 minutes ago in the third quarter. Loss. Game 2, 96-87, Celtics up 6 minutes to go. Loss. I don't know how you fix that Because how many times have we been here being like, Celtics up X points with X minutes, should have won. Game 5 against the Hawks. Game 1 against the Sixers, up 4 a few minutes to go. 2 minutes to go, loss. Game 4, you storm back, up 5, 2 minutes to go, loss. How do you fix that? Whatever that is, might be the biggest problem. Is that a coach? Is that a player change? Is that Tatum getting older and more mature and better?
Yeah. I've always said it's because we're led by what is now a 25-year-old player.
Yeah.
Like, he's 25. He's only ever been, obviously, prior to today, younger than that. Like, he's yet to fully mature as a human being, let alone like a professional in any capacity, let alone the like figurehead of a major NBA franchise. Like, he will get better, both like on the court, skill wise, execution wise, and leadership wise as well. Like, he has shown season upon season, progressively since his career started, an ability to do that and to make those steps as a marquee player and as a potential leader. I think particularly in the last 2 years since we did away with Kemba, and it was clear that like the directive is like, this is Tatum's team now. Like, no more Isaiah Thomas, no more Kyrie Irving, no more Kemba Walker. Like, it's Tatum's team. And then second fiddle, Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum has done nothing but show his ability to step up in that leadership role, but he's only 25. And so all of these issues with the team, pissing away leads, poor crunch time execution, all of the above, like all those things you can attribute to a lack of maturity. And then you look at, okay, who's the figurehead of the team? He's 25. He hasn't peaked in his professional maturity yet, his maturity as a basketball player. To me, that's the simplest explanation as to why we've got these glaring, absence of maturity issues, because we're led by a 25-year-old, and that's fine. And ultimately, it's like, that's where we earn our stripes as fans, is like suffering through the like, honestly, like pre-Tatum prime years. And it's what will make potentially, hopefully, I need to believe this, like the Tatum prime real championship contending and potentially winning years, that much more satisfying, because we'll have gone through this era of like Tatum learning how to really lead a team in the right way and win.
You've got it. That's it.
All right, we're going to wrap up.
That's how you win titles. That's how you win titles, is your best player. The Heat aren't winning shit. Over in the chat right now, good luck. Caleb Martin robbed Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Jokic is going to dominate you. Dominate you. Steph Curry dominated us. Giannis, title before that. Kawhi, title before that. Steph Curry, title before that. Steph Curry, title before that. LeBron James, title before that. You need one of those guys to win a title. You can talk about Heat culture all you want. Spo, talk about whatever you want. The only time he's won a title is when he's had LeBron James on his team. You think Joe Mazzulla couldn't win a title with LeBron James on his team? I could win a title with LeBron James on my team. You need a surefire superstar, year in, year out, first team All NBA guy. And Tatum is like, he's honestly there. He's there.
He's too young, though.
No, but if anyone turns up in game 2, Jaylen Brown 7 for 22 in game 2. It's a completely different series.
Sure.
Completely different series.
That's fair.
Completely different series. And I agree he's too young, but that speaks to how good he is already.
I fully agree.
D-Wade, 2006 for the Heat. You know who he had?
Shaquille
O'Neal, dude.
O'Neal.
Top 10, like really good. You know who's not? 2006? Well, if he was like,
I'm kidding. I mean, he was amazing. I'm joking. Yeah, Shaq was awesome.
Because I know there's some trolls that are going to be like, oh, 06 Shaq was already kind of old. Yeah, he was like his post-prime, but like
barely.
He was like 2 years removed from winning Finals MVP. Jaylen Brown will never sniff being like a top 10 player of all time, obviously. So like, I just want to, that's what I've honestly taken away from tonight, this playoff run. And Tatum didn't have a perfect playoff run, but you want to rank who's had the best playoffs in the NBA. It's Jokic at number 1. It's probably Steph at 2. Jimmy was kind of there, but like honestly, you go back and look at it. Elite first round, second round, this series, and they've just Make-A-Wish kid gave him the conference finals MVP. But like, yeah, Aussie Phil in the chat. Yeah, I know it's hard for Heat fans to remember, but like they're only just learning that Haywood Highsmith actually plays for the Miami Heat, so it's tough for them to actually understand. What if Miami Heat will upset the Nuggets? I will shave my head. If there's not a lot left, but we're hanging on. But if they do, I'll shave my head for you, Rat Star, in the chat.
Yeah. Shout out to Heat culture and all that, but like the Heat might get swept in this series. I'm sorry. The Nuggets have been lying in wait, and Jokic is just too good and better than, as much as I love Jason Tatum, like better than any player you guys have encountered.
Yeah.
In the post, and like, to be fair, it would have been the same for the Celtics. If the Celtics like showed up and Tatum didn't get injured, like it would have been a tough series for the Celtics as well.
We would have definitely lost. But
yeah,
I was listening to Denver World. Is that the podcast? They were on the Zach Lowe show, and they were talking about who would they prefer to see come through, and they were like, "We own the Heat.
Yeah,
we own the Heat. Celtics have given us trouble. The best way to defend Jokic is the quintessential Celtics double bigs lineup. You help off Aaron Gordon with Rob Williams." Oh, the Heat
just quickly. So someone in the chat, the classic Manila style, give the Heat credit at least. I think we gave the Heat credit within the first like 2 minutes of this show, Jake. Like credit the Heat. Their defense was incredible in this game. Jimmy Butler was Jimmy Butler in this game, splashing threes. Like he was really good. And they kind of survived another subpar Bam Adebayo game, which is why, again, if I was a Heat fan, I wouldn't feel particularly good heading into this Nuggets series. Jimmy Butler was good. You've found money with Caleb Martin. I would sign Cody Martin and see what you can get. Like if he's genetically the same, like what's possible there, genetically speaking. Maybe something for Brad Stevens to look up in the offseason there. But yeah, credit the Heat. Like they were great.
Oh,
like,
no question.
Seriously, to get to this point as an 8 seed, like to go up 3-0 on the 2 seed, to win in 7 games, like what an incredible postseason run from the Heat. So like no discredit to the Heat. I'm not even mad. Like I'm sad, but Jake's mad. But I'm sad. I'm devastated, but like pretty fucking good run by the Heat there. Like you got to give him credit.
I'm so torn between giving credit and being like they should not be here and they're frauds. They got smoked by the Atlanta Hawks in the first playing game. They were 5 minutes away. They were down to the Chicago Bulls in the second play-in game. They were this close to not even making the playoffs. And the zombies keep coming back. Kevin Love takes a charge on Giannis. Kevin Love, a dude that's so bad that he can't even play in the conference finals. They throw that grenade on Giannis. And if Giannis doesn't get hurt, they probably win the series.
Sound familiar? They go.
Yeah, interesting Heat. You see a Jason Tatum injury, Giannis Antetokounmpo injury. Get to play a fraud-ass New York Knicks team, second round.
Just quickly, let's just take a quick break to acknowledge our awesome sponsor, FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs because right now, new customers, they can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So head over to FanDuel.com/Boston to take advantage of that offer. Jake, like, obviously, no more Celtics bets to make this season. The plus side, the silver lining is no more accidentally jinxing the Celtics if you bet for or against them. We've kind of already covered this. Like you're logging onto FanDuel tomorrow, you're putting a bet together for the finals. What's something that you're cooking up in your mind on FanDuel tomorrow?
Yeah, game 1 feels like a little bit of a wild card, so I might wait until game 2. But I would go like, let's see what I can do here. We got Nikola Jokic, 10 plus assists and 10 plus rebounds. What does that do for you? Nah. You want to do 12 plus rebounds minus 260. Yeah. So Nikola Jokic plus 10 assists plus 10 plus 12 rebounds. I would wait till game 2 to place this, but that gets you plus 109. That's where I'd be going. The Heat have nothing for Jokic. Nothing. Bam Adebayo, 6'9", fake center. No chance. I saw someone
Love it.
here.
I love
Jake
it.
is a Heat hater. I'll tell you a quick story. So I went to high school in Singapore at the Singapore American School. Australian, dad's from Boston, and so my high school years from like 2008 to 2012, which is literally like the transition from the big three Celtics to the Heatles era. So when I first got to Singapore, making all these American friends, moving from Australia, Celtics, KG, Pierce, Allen, life's good. And then year 10, going into year 11, LeBron makes his decision to go to Miami. And I get to live the good life. The good life that first year, chokes in the finals. But was it game 6 against Boston that he just like ripped the Celtics heart out?
Yes. That's after game 5, Pierce, the pull-up 3 in his face, galloping down the court, going like, I'm so bad. And that was an awesome moment. I have that on a t-shirt somewhere deep in my wardrobe. And then game 6, man. Game 6, LeBron.
And so I had just finished PE. We get back to the cafeteria for lunch, and it's like the game's going. We got it on the laptops, like streaming. And the entire school has become a bandwagon Heat fan, joining this like Heatles LeBron bullshit. And I'm like the only Celtics fan around. And all these fans that don't even know who's on the team are just like screaming. It's like it's like intense. There's a lot of energy coming in during lunch. And I'll never get over it. I'll never forgive LeBron. I'll never stop hating the Heat because of that. I respect the hell out of Jimmy. I love Bam as a defender. Like I respect it, but I hate them. And it's because of it's just traumatic shit.
Yeah.
And it's all fake. They're all fake fans. They don't even have fans during the regular season. They can't sell out a game to save their lives during the regular season. Barely in the playoffs, honestly. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah, that interests me with Heat culture. It's like the culture sort of begins and ends with the product on the court. Because if you look at their fans, if you look at their arena, there's just no culture there. It's very much fair weather. It's very much like come and go as you please. Leave the arena at the first sign of adversity. So it's just funny to see a lot of Heat fans jumping up and down about Heat culture, where like beyond Jimmy and beyond Spo and beyond Patrick Riley, like there is no culture, and you're just kind of like thriving in that you're like culture adjacent as a fan, right? Like you happen to be rooting for a team that has a depth of culture, and you're just kind of piggybacking off that. But really, there's no culture among Heat fans there. Should we talk about? Should we rank the Celtics playoff performances throughout this postseason, Jake? And this is a tough one to do, right? Because it was really an up and down postseason for everyone on the Celtics roster, Jason Tatum included. Like, who would you say was the best overall playoff performer for the Celtics this entire postseason?
It is a good question because I feel like there's two choices, both of which were up and down, I guess. Don't get me wrong, Florida and Miami have plenty of great attributes, but the basketball team and their fans, one of my best friends from high school, Miami Heat fan, like him, have a few friends that just like come out of the woodworks. Anyway, I'll get off this for now. But it's between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for me for the number one spot. I think Tatum probably takes it for me. Like, he's everything for this team. He had a bit of a slow-ish start in the playoffs, had some up and down moments in the Philly series, but every time we needed him, game 6 against Atlanta, like 30, 14, 7 assists, defense. Game 6 in Philly, turns up in the fourth quarter. Game 7 in Philly, at home and against Philly, 51 points. Games 4, 5, and 6 against Miami, dominating performances, and felt like he elevated like those 3 games against like 4, 5, 6. That's why I was so ready for tonight. That's why I actually had some confidence because I thought that he had separated as the best player in this series, like pretty considerably. So that's the thing that I take away is that Tatum being like one of those guys you can really, really believe in as a guy that can carry you to a championship. So for me, it's Tatum number 1.
Yeah, I think I agree. And like he's not like running away with it, but he was clearly the most consistent guy throughout the postseason, and the guy where like the most amount of times we were sitting there being like, oh yeah, like we can win behind this guy. Like he is what any team with championship hopes needs, and he's I think the only guy on the Celtics who can say that, who has been able to say that in recent years. Number 2, it gets a lot harder. So I think you may have mentioned Jaylen Brown a second ago. Like he had some great moments, some terrible moments as well. But like turning the Heat series around, the Sixers series around by picking up Harden full court and like really coming into his own and making himself like a main character in the playoffs by being the sole defender on James Harden for a few games there, despite leaving him open in the corner after game 2 or 3 or wherever it was. He had some great moments as well. I don't know if I can give him player number 2, rank number 2 in the postseason, though. I think I might have to give it to Marcus Smart. And this comes back to he's like the one other player who can initiate the offense, right? And he's probably the second most trustworthy player on the team. And I just felt like throughout the course of the playoffs, time and time again, we were saying that we've got Maestro Marcus Smart back. Like he's back to conducting the orchestra. He's back to setting everyone up. We didn't see that necessarily throughout the course of the regular season. And I just thought he sort of reared his head again and was sort of the secondary hero, if you can use that term, in the postseason. So I'm going to give Marcus Smart number 2.
Yeah. Ooh. Recency bias is a hell of a drug. I got to be honest.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
and I'm an addict.
Yeah. And look, DJ Daniel nailed it. Game 6, Philly, maybe his best game as a Boston Celtic. He was awesome in the Atlanta series. Huge games in Philly. He was awesome in Game 6 against Miami as well. Like he turns up. You can't rely on him to be like a number 2. Like he gives you like number 2 in the playoffs level production in the playoffs. Like he's a 16 game player. Draymond Green absolutely nailed that kind of thing, that bit where there are 82 game players and there are 16 game players. And Marcus Smart, I think he's like a great, 82 game player, but like when he gets to the playoffs, game changer. I think all the way back to him as a rookie, since he's come to the Celtics, longest tenured Celtics, made the playoffs every year. It's not a coincidence. Yeah, Smart can't be a number 2 on a championship team, and he's not. He's a role player. He's like a 3rd, 4th, 5th guy. But what you love about him is that he can be in one playoff run. How many times this run has he been the second best player on the team or the best player on the team? A lot. And if you can have a guy on your team like that, that elevates and gives you, it's all like, the way the playoffs work. It's like, can he win you a game? I don't care what it looks like for a stretch of the playoffs. Can Marcus step up and win you a game? And yes, he can win you a closeout game. He can win you a game 6 in Philly. Like he can step up in a specific game and change everything.
Well, yeah, and just like more like specific to the Celtics offense, like he can make post-entry passes. He's a catch option on the short roll and then can swing to the corners once the defense collapses. Like he's a guy who can like make things happen offensively where like for guys like Jaylen Brown, there aren't opportunities. Like, okay, you can't create off the dribble. You're going to need to set something up. You're going to need to call something. You're going to need to run something. You're going to need to manipulate the defense in other ways. And that's just not there for Jaylen Brown, which is why there's just so much more longevity and like playoff creativity and execution for guys like Marcus Smart, who have the abilities to create things using other people and reading defenses and like sort of more fundamentally basketball ways of breaking down defenses. So are we in agreement that Smart is number 2, despite the recency bias that you sort of rightfully called out?
I think so.
It's tough.
I think so. I have thoughts on the third pick around this because, right. So you've been kind enough to give me the first pick, which means I get to go next.
Well, yeah, let's just do the top 5 here because we have to get back to and finish on Jaylen Brown because I know. Really do think that's like the sort of underlying narrative transitioning to the offseason. So number 3, who you got?
Oh, wow. I felt really confident, and then I thought about it more for a second. I was like, I think it's Derek.
Yeah, it is. Recency bias, just like let the recency bias just become part of you. It's just, it's there for a reason. He was recently very good, and recently we needed him to be very good, and he was, and therefore he's number 3.
I wonder, and this ties into potentially Jaylen and whoever you take next, but like you saw it in flashes tonight, and we saw it in flashes when in the regular season when Marcus went down, like Derek with an elevated role, elevated responsibility. He can do so many things. He's kind of a 3-level scorer. I think it's Derek. Because I feel like when we really needed him, he was there.
Great early in the Hawks series as well. Like no show in the Sixers series. Like let's just be honest. Yeah. And like the first 2 games, probably 3 games of the Heat series, but like some great moments outside of that. And like there's just unfortunately this Derek White tip in to win game 6, it's going to be dropped down a tier in terms of all-time moments. It's going to be in that sort of tier of great moments that unfortunately didn't lead to anything of significance. And now, while that's still fresh in our minds, I think we need that to factor in to giving him the number 3 spot. He was overall great looking back.
He was fantastic. And I love what he does. And he recaptured it in this series. I don't know what happened in the Philly series, but what makes Derek White great, he's like a mini, honestly, we call him Smart 2.0, but he's almost like Tatum 2.0 in that he does everything and he's like more of a scorer and he can kind of handle, like if you need Marcus to be like your lead guy, he can kind of handle some of that responsibility. So Derek, like tonight, I thought he was at one point, I thought he was literally going to drag us back.
Yeah.
There was a moment there where it cut to 7 and I was like, oh my God, is this going to be the Derek White run? Is this going to be the Derek White just rainbow, unicorn, miracle celebration? He was not.
Number 4 is a little harder.
Yeah.
I want to say it's probably just Jaylen Brown, right?
It's Jaylen Brown. I think it's like as and go on, you go.
Well, I mentioned his like series tone changing defense on James Harden in the second round there against the Sixers, and like I think as the sting of this loss subsides, like the ending of the process in the second round there might be like a little, as fans at least, like little personal runners up title that we walk away with, because like that was extremely satisfying, and like losing to the Heat is nowhere near as painful as losing to a team like the Sixers. Jaylen Brown's defense in that series, and he had some pretty good offensive moments as well. I guess he just had enough pockets of contributions and goodness that he deserves the 4 spot. For a guy who really want to be giving the 2 spot and he just wasn't there, we're at the point now in the rankings where you kind of just got to tip your cap to JB, even though he was not consistent at all through the postseason.
No, and he was good, I think, in the first 2 series, but he was a disaster in this series.
Yeah.
And that's the most important series. Like it scales up. we didn't need anyone to play that well in the Atlanta series to win. And then in the Philly series, it's crazy, but like we're just built to beat them more easily than we are this Heat team. Like matchup wise, everybody loved the Celtics going into the playoffs, including Celtics fans, obviously, because we match up really well against Philly. We match up really well against Milwaukee. We match up really bad against Miami because our second best player turns into like Dion Waiters.
Because they exploit all of his weaknesses. They
Yeah.
know him. They have read him like a book for years now.
Yeah.
And I would love for like that to just be the focus for Jaylen Brown. Like obviously continue the underwater workouts, do all the things that like made you into an all NBA player this year. Like he had a great season. He did. He made all NBA second
Of
team
course.
playing behind a guy like Jason Tatum, who really has the limelight, the spotlight throughout the season. Like Jaylen Brown was objectively like very, very good this regular season. There's some playoff stuff that he needs to clean up. And before we look at moving him, and we'll get to what that might look like in a second, I'm speculating, but it feels like the easiest thing would just be to like really start to refine those things, those parts of his game, and to really work on that. A lot of people dismiss that, just like, no, that's who he is. He's 26 now. Like, that's it. He can't improve that mental aspect of his game. I don't agree with that. I think that he can. I think there's still time to clean that up. So I look forward to what the offseason looks like in that sense for Jaylen Brown. Number 5, just very quickly before we move back to the future for Jaylen Brown and the team. Like, is it a tie between Horford and Time Lord? I think you got to give it to Horford, right? Like, despite his 3-point shot just like disappearing beyond the Hawks series, and even then some, like his defense was pretty incredible for a man of his age, or anyone really.
It's kind of wild because coming to the playoffs, everyone was awesome. Everyone was awesome. And we get to the end and it feels like outside of Tatum, who like really met or exceeded expectations, and then there's like not a lot of guys, which hurts. You need the opposite when you get to this moment. I think it's probably Horford, but like in this series, I thought Rob was amazing. I thought defensively he really found something once he became comfortable with Jimmy. Problem was it took him like 2 games too long to get comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's unfair to ask Horford to do a lot with Bam in some of these moments, just like the matchup wise. Bam's quickness is not the type of matchup that works with Horford versus the Embiid thing, which doesn't, some people wouldn't think makes sense, but the predictability, the slowness of Embiid is built for Horford, and there's like a mental aspect of it.
Are you watching the chat as well?
I'm watching the chat. Yeah. Mood Wolf.
That's cooking.
Mate, it's over.
All right, so we got our top 5, and it was painfully difficult to rank, really, because outside of Tatum, who also had some pretty shocking games, there's a steep drop off from there. Another Jaylen Brown quote. No, I already read that out. So he said, "This is not the end. We've already got a lot more to give." Blah 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 blah. Is it the end, Jake, for Jaylen Brown on this team? Like, what do you? I know we've touched on it a little bit, but it's like it's clearly like the core topic going forward, at least for the next week or two with this team. So, what do you anticipate there, and what do you hope to happen there?
I would really push for this non-max option, but I don't know. I have this feeling that like we got to game 7, right? But you go down 0-3. You go down 3-2 to Philly. You drop game 5 against Atlanta. You shouldn't have gone down 3-2 against Milwaukee. You should have won that Heat series in less than 7 games. Like at some point, there just needs to be either like maybe next year's the year where they don't do those things and they win the games they're supposed to win. They don't do those things where we're pushing for the 1 seed and we lose to the Wizards. We're pushing for the 1 seed and we lose to the Rockets. And that's not on Jalen. It's not. It's not all on Jalen. But is there something that it's not necessarily like people talk about the fabric or the culture or the heart and soul of this team, or is it just the fit? Like, is there something about Jalen's inability to make the quick decisions that hampers this team? Because Brogdon, he's a role player. He's like kind of Jalen Brown light, really. Better with the ball in his hands as far as turnovers go, but part of that is because if he doesn't find a crack, he just doesn't do anything and passes the ball. Versus Jalen actually just will attack and cop the turnover. I'm not even sure which one's better, honestly. Jalen Brown is look. So it's like, the problem is like, what are you going to get back? And
Exactly.
the problem, and look, we're going to dive really deep into it. Obviously, as the off season goes along, but like this is one that came across the timeline today. Al Pacino Grunt, one of my nemesis on Twitter, mentioned this one when I pulled up the trade machine. It's been talked about for how long?
Oh no, Jake.
Bradley Beal for Jalen Brown, and then you just kind of have to send someone else out to make the money work. And actually like Denny Avdia. I like he's a defensive guy, 6'9", kind of wing, but it's essentially Jalen for Beal.
I just think Beal's a worse version of Jalen. Like Beal, what has he shown us?
Do we know?
The answer?
Look, I've always been no on this. But do we know about Beal really? Like the Wizards situation's been so bad. Like if you switch Jalen and Beal, like Washington's is probably the same. Because whatever. Like Beal led the league in scoring on like good efficiency.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a much better playmaker. Like he's like feel for the game. His decision making is like a completely different level to Jalen. The defense is something. Well, this comment, Dave D's battling like we are. Beal's worth on defense and Beal. Maybe
that's a factual statement.
I get what you're trying to say that Beal's worth on defense than Jalen. I don't know.
Jalen can create his own shot. He was creating his own shot all season, and he just got. Sure, but I don't know. There's extra size there with Jalen Brown, which I think is important for at least like presenting the idea of a good defense. Which
but this is the thing.
Yeah, I know. I know what you're about to say. Go say it. Say it.
Is he like all the other things that Jalen's supposed to be really good at? Like while we love Jason, the elite rebounding, the elite defense. I'll even leave out like the high level playmaking, but like Jalen doesn't do the defense or the rebounding. Why? Like why does Jalen not have 15 rebounds tonight?
Is Beal gonna come in and like change the tone there? Like no, he just won't. He won't.
Look, probably not. But I don't know. This is where.
But it's okay. Like this is where we're at. This is where we're at. Like where we're just kind of like trying to figure out.
Jalen's biggest thing, like has always been the assist to turnover ratio has always been like 1-to-1. And you look at Beal in this most recent season, 5.4 assists to 2.9 turnovers. Like, or last year, 6.6 assists to 3.4 turnovers. It's like way closer to 2-to-1. And that's the biggest issue with Jalen. Especially on this team, when you're lacking like the one guy who is the elite playmaker, like as smart, good playmaker, Jason, much better playmaker for his size and position than everybody else in the league. But what we're missing is like the playmaking part. So if your second best player, where you're relying on, your biggest weakness is like him. Far out, man.
I have I can't call it a mind-blowing tweet, but it's close to that to read out to you on this. But have you got any other Jalen Brown trades for us before I get to that?
Oh, I got heaps.
Okay.
So Well, you want me to throw out another one?
Sure, if you got one.
I gotta load them in, but this one here we got, which Spoonie. I don't even know if we get the picks in this now. Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, 2 first-round picks. Talk about crunch time issues. DeMar DeRozan, really
Sure.
really good playmaker, really solid playmaker. Doesn't give you 3-point shooting, but guess what? Neither did Jalen in this playoffs.
I'm gonna
Crunch
plead
time.
the fifth here. Like you're like, all credit to you, Jake. Like, you're bringing solutions to the show.
Yeah.
It's too soon for me. Like, it just
I'm not
happened.
saying I would do this stuff. I'm bringing them to the table.
I know you're a problem solver. You're an ideas man. It's great.
That's what they call me.
That's what we need. I just I can't yet. I need to just go on like a bushwalk for 2 days to get my mind right. And
what about this?
Really, like, go on. Oh, dude, what?
No.
Take that off the screen immediately. That is a step
No.
backwards. Absolutely. Yeah, like, he just
Siakam's good, man.
I don't know, like, can he create his own shot? Like,
Yeah.
Is he a proven crunch time executor?
He won a title as a number 2.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Much better defender than JB. Elite defender.
I want to believe in Jaylen Brown so much, which is a tough position to have at this moment in time, given what we just saw. But like I said, we're very fortunate. Brad Stevens is the man at the helm.
That's your terrible trays.
Happens next. Yeah, please, if you've got some trade ideas, send them in. Like, we're just riffing here. We're well and truly off the beaten track of our run sheet. So this tweet that came after the game, and forgive me for making this comparison. This is from Bill Barnwell. Tatum just finished his age 24 season. Brown, his age 26 season. The Celtics lost Game 7 of the conference finals by 19 points. Go back to 1989, 1990. Pippen's age 24 season.
Oh, God.
Jordan's age 26 season. The Bulls lost Game 7 of the conference finals by 19 points. What happened next, Jake?
They won a lot of games after that. They won a lot of games after that. If they run it back with no changes, I'll be pretty confident that they're going to be right back here with a chance to win the title again next year. And so, if the problem is the contract part, that's the part that makes this. That's why we're talking about trading Jaylen Brown, because when Jordan and Pippen were in that spot, there was no risk of Pippen destroying their cap space, destroying their cap sheet. He was on like one of the best deals, famously sat out and got surgery like when the season started because he was that underpaid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, if we can have Jaylen Brown on Gallinari money, yeah, keep him.
Yeah, get out of here with your logic and your reason. Yeah. That's not fair.
Like someone in the chat here, right? Like Siakam's worse than Jaylen. Let's say that's true. Sometimes it's not about if you're ranking players, it's about fit. And Siakam's a better decision maker than Jaylen. And so that's where I think about this team and how do we get better? It's the crunch time stuff. It's when the offense gets broken, how do we fix it? And you need better decision makers in better spots because Jaylen gets frozen. He's asked to do more tonight. And he turns into an 8 turnover a game guy, which is useless.
Yeah, and not that I want to talk about the game anymore, but there was that period right after the Derek White explosion where like we seemed to take the ball out of Derek White's hands and back into Jaylen Brown's hands. And that seemed like a really boneheaded approach to that juncture of the game where Derek White was clearly the one other guy outside of Tatum who was injured, outside of Smart, who was kind of a no-show, who could make things happen in this game. And we just took the ball out of his hands. And that was really frustrating. And clearly Jaylen Brown just is unable to operate in that capacity. There's a tweet after the game from Sam Vecini from the Game Theory pod who said the Celtics still have 2 years, in my opinion, until the Jaylen / Jason thing becomes a significant question from a salary cap perspective. It's a lot of money to guarantee to two guys, but they take up roughly 50% of the cap in 2023, 2024, which is the upcoming season, and then 60% of the cap in 24, 25, which aren't crazy numbers. So essentially, like, you could still either continue to operate as normal or re-sign or max extend Jaylen Brown and still be operating at a recent level where you have some cap room to make other things happen. It's just long term. Once both of them are super max, is where you really start to sort of have some constraints on what you can do. So it's not over yet.
Yeah, and like, you know, I agree. Like, really important to remember, the Celtics are in a great spot. Like 25 plus teams would trade places with the Celtics right now. That is not an exaggeration. The last dance option we laid out earlier, you sign Jaylen to the Supermax extension. That doesn't kick in next year. It kicks in the year after that. The Jason Tatum Supermax extension doesn't kick into the year after that.
Yeah.
There's plenty of time. And so if you get to a point where Jason Tatum's Supermax extension kicks in and the first year of Tatum Supermax and Jaylen Supermax, same roster, goes really bad, then you can trade Jaylen after that. By the time you get to that point, the cap will have gone up enough and Jaylen will be on a point where it's not like a Russell Westbrook type contract. And again, all these contracts can be moved. Even if you have to attach a first round pick, it's not a good thing. You can get value back. You're not going to get 100 cents on the dollar, but you get 50, 75 cents on the dollar. You're going to still be trading a top 20 player, top 25 player. Like, that has value. Someone that has the playmaking, that thinks that he's a better fit, will be there, especially once he's in that late prime.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad place to be. There's a lot of different ways that this can go, and it's not as simple as just sign Supermax, ride this out forever, and that's it. Or trade Jaylen, and we move on. There's a few different scenarios. So
yeah, and like trying to improve Jaylen's approach to the game and just his I guess mentality as a player beyond like his physical skill set is a legitimate way forward, especially when you weigh that up against the alternative options, which is I guess kind of what you were getting at, Jake. Like as painful as the recent Jaylen Brown memories are, and they are extremely painful, particularly limited to this game 7, like, that sucks. But earlier in the postseason, we were talking about, firing Joe, which might not be a thing anymore. We're talking about trading Derek White, which very likely won't be a thing anymore. Like, these things ebb and flow, like, all of the time. And right now we're on a downswing with Jaylen Brown. But like, I challenge anybody to present a situation where we'd be better off without Jaylen Brown than we would be with him, at least in the next couple of years. So
dude,
it's tough.
Literally, season starts tomorrow. Celtics are the favorites to win the East.
Yeah. Well, that is hard to believe given the disappointment. I mean, you may be right.
I'm just saying, it is. I guarantee it.
Yeah. I suppose we should leave it there. Like, we've been going for 90 minutes. We need to go and like enact some of those grieving strategies that we talked about earlier, Jake. I'm going to go shoot some hoops. I'm just going to go, I don't know, listen to a Succession breakdown pod and try and forget that I'm a Celtics fan. What are you off to after this?
I'm a masochist, and I'm going to listen to Bill Simmons' podcast that's just come out.
Oh, is it out already?
It's out. Him and his
he
dad.
Was at the game, right?
He was at the game. Him and his dad did it afterwards. Dr. Bill. I'm gonna get one more drink. Pablo Escobar, Narcos, dude sitting on a swing.
Forrest Gump in the empty house.
Yeah, just look, man. I love it. I love this season. I've loved doing this podcast. I've loved doing this with you and the rest of the first of the floor team. Everybody in the chat that's new. I've absolutely loved doing these late night shows. Like, this is awesome. We're gonna keep doing it until the wheels fall off. And they're not falling off. Yeah, exactly. They're not falling off anytime soon. It's been great. Yeah. And honestly, like, it went down 3-0 and I was like, oh, well, that sucked. I wish we could have gotten a few few more episodes in, and look, they gave us that. We got the good times. We got a couple bucket hat episodes in, had a couple drinks with people in the chat.
Objectively a good season, and
yeah, dude.
like a fun Celtic season, and I'll never forget 21-5 or whatever it was to begin the year. Incredible Missoula math. That was insane. And yeah, like just as far as this podcast is concerned, like huge year for our show. And we'll get into it a little bit further the next time we do a pod on the First to the Floor podcast feed, which will probably be like let's be honest, not tomorrow. We might need like a day of grievance, maybe the day after tomorrow. And I think we'll be looking to fire up our playback stream actually for like game 1 of the NBA Finals. Just have a bit of fun. That's playback.tv/first to the floor. It's a live watch party platform if you've not heard of it, where you can just jump in and watch the game with us. You just sign in with your cable provider or with League Pass. You're in there. The game's up on the screen. Wear these little faces in the corner there, and you can have a lot of fun just watching the game.
Just hang in, watching the game. We're going to talk shit about the Heat. All these Heat fans come in. We can watch your team get destroyed all together. It's going to be good. Yeah, we'll put those links in. Follow us on Twitter, First to the Floor, or at Jake Eisenberg, or on any social media. Like, we'll post everything there. But, we're going to do off-season stuff. We're picking 35th in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Trivia shows, live trivia shows.
Yeah.
There's so much to come.
We do a bunch. It's just fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And fortunately for us, the fun's not over. Like we've said in previous shows, Jake, we tend to thrive in the off season, if nothing else. So lots to get to there. All right. Well, look, let's wrap it up again. Thank you for everyone who's joined us. This is now the 7th installment of the Celtics Late Night Show. Obviously, pretty devastated that it's not going to continue, and that more importantly, the Celtics aren't going to make the finals, but we've had a lot of fun with the show. Like we said, head over to the First to the Floor podcast feed, the First to the Floor YouTube channel, subscribe there for more content during the off season. Jake, love your work. Everyone in the chat, love your work, including the very annoying Heat fans, and congrats on making the NBA finals. Celtics 2024 championships, we're out.